Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am super excited because I have Arnaud Charpentier, perhaps, something like that. Is that about right? Maybe?
Absolutely.
All right, why don't you
Very
say it just
impressive.
for so everyone knows how to say your name correctly?
I'm going to say it the French way, Arnaud Charpentier,
What he
which
said.
is really, really hard to say when you're not French. So it's a very terrible name to
It's a
try and
wonderful name.
travel
It's a
around the
wonderful
world.
name. But um, you may or may not know of Arno, but he is a driving force in the industry and behind tons and tons of games you may or may not know. But so part of Matagot from the beginning, CEO of the company, and a big driving force behind Kolossal and the work that's happening there on Kickstarter, and part of this ragtag band of fulfillment distribution companies called Surfin'Meeple in Europe and Asia. So all sorts of tendrils into the game industry. Also a good friend who for some time lived in the Bay Area
Mhm.
and gamed with our group a few times, but now is back in France, I believe, right?
Yes.
But so starting from the beginning, right? This is you're a strapping young man, but you've been around for a while. How did can you? I mean, can you take us through like your journey or origin into board gaming? And I assume that was then into Matago, but maybe there was another stop along the way. What's your what was your route into the game industry?
Yeah, sure. So just like all good stories, it started just as an accident somehow. I started playing board games 15, 20 years ago. And played more and more as we got married, had children, so we were kind of like less able to go out in the evenings and weekends and all. We were more at home with friends, so more and more board games happened, and I liked it, enjoyed it. Played a ton of cool games already, like Camelot. I remember playing a ton of these Nitya fun game, and also harder and more meaty games already. Um, and we've come across like building a group around us. And in this group was one remarkable individual called Isham. And Isham is the one who founded Matago. And I knew nothing about board game, like no development, no nothing. But I knew something about accounting, finance, administration, because that's my trade. That's what I've been
Those are
doing.
some good hard skills to have.
Yes, for like many years, and he needed someone to help him with the accounting and everything. And I just started to help in this area. And basically, at this point, one thing led to another, and got more and more involved. And eventually felt like I had played enough that I could maybe try a little bit of development. I was lucky to be able to work on the development of Kemet with Guillaume and Jacques, two amazing gentlemen. And from this point on, I had a chance to work on more and more games.
And that's one of the
And
interesting
my
things about you, I think, from having from gotten to know you over the last 3 or 4 years, or maybe 3 years, is right. There's this like finance, accounting, business piece, but then I mean, at this point, I mean, perhaps not in the beginning of the story, but if we fast forward, you know, just a few years, um, you know, a lot of the projects you're working on, you're a bona fide game developer in terms of managing the look feel, how the design's integrated, the components, and really that work of bringing a game to life, which is very for most people would be sort of on the opposite sides of finance and
Mhm.
accounting.
It
Was
is.
it
It
and
just
is it just something learned through the trade of working and the love of games, or how did you said it very quickly, but like how did it just come naturally to you and you didn't know you had the superpower? Like,
I guess so. Somehow it just came naturally. Um, I would say you're absolutely right. Those two things are pretty much opposite. And one thing, if you ever hear the expression a creative accountant,
sure,
that's a very bad word.
Yeah, I was like, I
right?
don't. The association's
So
quite different in that when you use creative accounting.
creative accountant is bad. And so, not wanting to be a bad person, I poured all my creativity into board games. I got to love the product, the game components. I'm a big fan of trying to get the right components, making the pieces fit. The first piece that I worked on were the takenoko bamboos, for example.
Right.
And sorry, that that was fun. Like the first version of the takenoko bamboos had little magnets embedded in it,
And somebody
and you
was
would
like,
think,
"This is
wow,
going to be
that would be
insanely expensive."
yes, and that's not the reason why it was abandoned. It was
Oh,
terrible. It was just terrible because they would stick together, and you would have to take them out all the time, and just like the wooden shape just was better in every aspect. Um, and because at the time, so before I spent 3 years in the US, and we were almost neighbors, I spent almost 10 years in China. So I was a guy that was close to the factory. So I got to go into all kind of factories and talk to the people there and learn how you could do things, from molded plastic to various shapes in wood. Laser cutting was, 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago was not a big thing. It was like a luxury item. Nowadays,
yeah.
it's a lot more approachable. And because I had dabbled in engineering, this was all fascinating to me. It was all the things that I couldn't do in my job.
You can't do it
So
with pure numbers. Um,
no, you couldn't. It was like tactile thing. It was creative things, and so yeah, it was a ton of fun. I could work with incredibly talented people, um, and watch how they hone and polish a game. I remember Bruno Cathala working on Raptor. Every time I thought I had an idea, he was like 2 or 3 steps ahead of me.
he was like, "That's a good idea
Okay,
if we wanted to make a bad game." So,
it's something like that. And he's just so incredibly talented. It's just, he was right all the time. And it
um,
was a very big learning experience.
for sure.
So I had a chance to talk to those very talented people, and sometimes I actually had decent ideas, so they got incorporated in games, and that's how I came to do more and more development.
Well, yeah,
So I guess yeah, that's how it happened,
and to
pretty
interject
naturally.
on a few of those things that you just rattled through, one is like super jealous of the time with the factory experience, right? That's one of the things that being somebody I do a lot of development myself, you getting that understanding of how things are made and what the options are and how they can be leveraged to make new and exciting experiences. Um, is super valuable and being able to, I mean, you see that in Matagot products, right? Like you can see the way that wood or plastic are being leveraged or even punchboard, just all these different techniques and styles to deliver memorable and unique games, right? One of the questions I had in terms of, because Matago's I don't know the lineage of games per se. Early on, when you guys were starting, what what were some of the? Was it a company that had a bunch of small titles that sort of you worked your way up, or did you have an early hit? What did the sort of trajectory look like in the early days when you guys were starting?
Well, and at the time, like all the publishing was my partner Isham, but it was small titles. Um, Actually, I would say that the first title that started to catch attention maybe was Kronos, and it was already an Excel size box. It was time travel, and whatever you build had implication in the future. Um, Very, very brainy, very, very good game too. And that started to get some attention in Essen. At the time, Essen was, like the place where you find new games. Later on, Giants of Easter Island, so again, a big box. And the big breakthrough was 2009, so 3 years in. with Cyclades and Dice Town. And those two were the first two hits.
I was like,
Games that
for a
actually
second, I was
sold.
like trying to be like, what? Oh, Cyclades,
Oh
Cyclades. I
yeah,
got, yeah, no, no,
there's pages.
yeah, and then you have
BTG has
Kemet and
pages about that.
Takenoko Riot, Raptor. I
Hmm.
mean, those are all,
Yeah, up to Treasure Island,
you know,
and like just this year, now more and more titles, and I must name Inish, which is my favorite game in the world from the incredible Christian Martinez,
it is a
and
spectacular game for
a
sure.
game that we developed for 5 years easily. I played hundreds of games with my group back when we were living in Shanghai, and my personal pride being able to talk to Jim Fitzpatrick and convince him to work with us using his art, which was such a remote possibility, but
Oh, it's an incredible looking game.
just trying it, that has been absolutely stunning. And thanks to a well-known channel, I don't know if I should name the channel, the early feedback from people not getting it turned into, oh, hang on, I should try this again. And then it caught fire, and the game actually found its audience. I think this has been one of the most rewarding experiences in publishing, because every time we showed it, it was like 50% of the time people would not get it, and they would give up after like 2 rounds, thinking like, "Oh, I got this, and it doesn't work."
Right.
Like, funny, because we've been playing it every weekend for the last 3 years, but
Well, sometimes you
sure.
need to take, creative leaps. I am curious. I mean, I'm going to guess, was it the Dice Tower or a different channel, or who was the person that sort of?
Shut up and sit down.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
There's a guy who first they did an amazing video, and then they really captured everything about the game really perfectly in the
Right.
video.
Oh no, their work is
And so
incredible.
people, walked in and they knew what they were getting.
Right, right.
The Dice Tower, now that you mention it, has been an amazing. I mean, Tom, how I do owe him a statue for what he's done on Cyclades and Kemet and Giants.
He talks
Um,
about some of those games all the time.
and I
Um,
mean, yes, the video of him taking the pieces of Cyclades is one of the first ones I've seen from him. I was ignorant of what he was doing at the
sure, sure,
time.
sure.
I was like French guy in China, so what was happening in America was very distant. And my
The
God,
internet.
this energy, this love, this passion, I just wanted to play the game. It was our
Yeah.
game, but it made me want to play it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind talking about other channels. This is still quite a small channel, even though I appreciate you being on. Um, but no, it's interesting. With the shut up and sit down guys, I haven't had much overlap with them in terms of Pencil First Games and our products, which is fine. But for Skulk Hollow, which is the Kickstarter I did recently, they like made one sentence mention in some like written news update. It was like news of the week, and it was like, "Hey, there's this Skulk Hollow game. Is it going to be
Yeah, and
another
it's
route or not or what?" And like that reference drove a
mhm.
lot of people. Like it was considerable. They have a very mobile and active audience that responds to their, you know, responds to them, right? And I think it's pretty amazing what those guys have accomplished. Um, so okay, we're gonna go to that. Let's call this early days or whatever. So you're growing, and Matago's making lots of games. You're moving through everything's rolling and doing well. One of the things that was like stunning to me was when we first met. At the time, like board games wasn't I mean, it was you also had a full-time job, right? Like
Hmm.
like I was like, because
Up
at the time,
until last summer.
yeah, so I was like, this was I remember talking to my wife about this. I was like, because you came over and you had like a bad day, and like you were complaining about your job or something like that, and just not like aggressively, but like it came up, and that's when I was like, wait, do you have a job? Like you have a full-time job? And I remember walking, and I was like, man, this guy has been working for like a top tier publisher for a decade
A decade.
plus.
Hmm.
And like he still has a day job. There's like oh man. Okay, but so yes. But so you've been working on that, and then for Colossal is a totally different play, right? It's a totally different
Hmm.
you know, uh, I don't want to say uh I don't know if this is
Animal.
if no, but I'm just yeah, no, well, but it's much more. It's okay. So it's got a lot of American DNA, um,
Hmm.
and vibe to it, uh, but also this sort of turn over the industry type of we're going to go big and bold on Kickstarter, and we're
Hmm.
going to take these titles through, and we're going to have this like aggressive cadence of Kickstarter titles, and we're going to build that and push and build a community and that channel. Um, can you talk about like how that you got looped into that and took that on, and a little bit about what your involvement in that has been?
Yeah, I mean, again, sort of an accident, but I had a couple friends in the US. So, French people that went to college together, played rugby together, and ended up pretty much in the same city in the US. So, sort of like an uh, incredible thing. And we started to, get together, get the families together, and all. And of course, we played board games because that's a fantastic activity to have with your kids.
I'm all for it.
Um, Absolutely. And so, at some stage, one of my friends there, he said like, well, I would, I see what you're doing with Matagot and all, but I obviously cannot get in this action. How about starting another company, but then it would be a Kickstarter company? And I was like, well, I don't know. He said, well, come on, it's gonna be fun. Okay, fun sounds good. And
Funny
I
goes,
went
it's going
into
to be
it.
work.
Yeah, I was like, it was not going to be work. So what I signed up for was, let's try and invest a bit of money in, like trying to make some games and have fun. And I think it all started with one game that he really, really wanted to do, and I presented it to Matago, and I absolutely love this game. It's a Tom Lehman game. It's a two-player game. I don't know if I ever played it with you. It's a bit of a two-player teacher, and I
What's the
think
name
it's
of the?
superb.
Does it have a name?
Currently, the working title is Chungho.
Is that the one where
Um,
you have the nodes, you're on either side and you're moving like the forest creatures back and forth, or is that something else? I don't know.
no,
Keep going.
that's something else. It's a shedding game, so you've got your cards, you want to get rid of them. Whoever
Oh,
gets rid
okay.
of them
I don't think we've
faster
played it.
scores more points. So really love the game, and for some reason, it was not exactly the vibe for Matago at the time. Also, it's a two-player game. Matago has a lot of them, so and actually a brilliant one from Christian Martinez that you've played, and that's the one you were mentioning
Oh,
with the
okay.
creatures from the forest and the sea.
That is a great game.
And that was coming, and it was like, well, it's not the right time and all. My friend was like, hey, I just want to do this. It's amazing. Let's find a way. And at the time, the incredible Travis R. Chance was, like transitioning out of his current position and was looking to start something. I said, well, this guy's got energy and talent, and why not do something? Um, and my implication was always meant to be minimal. So my friends started to like gather a bigger group, and Travis put together a group. So we had people investing and someone trying to build a game. And the first game was Western Legends.
Yeah, you guys came out with a big bang, and this video isn't posting today, but like you that isn't the Western Legends expansion Kickstarter live or coming or
It is totally in the middle of the campaign. It's a precisely on the 7th day of a 14-day campaign.
oh,
It's
okay.
doing great. There's a lot of love from the community for this expansion. It's a big expansion. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like 50 or 60% more. It is 50%
Yeah, I
more
remember seeing the
space to
like
play.
components.
Yeah, there's a train. There's a lot of action
Yeah.
going on there, and
I have to. Let me see. I don't know if this is going to wreck the video for a second, but I'm going to slide over for a quick moment. See what.
sure.
Uh, uh, you have 7 days left. So
Hmm.
does it? Do you know what? Does it end on
Correct.
Tuesday?
I
Or
think
what
so.
day? What day does it end?
I think it's Tuesday.
All right.
Tuesday or Wednesday, but
I'll take a
either
look.
or.
I'll take a look. And actually, it didn't even occur to me until we were talking about that. But I will adjust the schedule a little bit so this video comes out within that window. So we
Oh,
can say,
that's so
hey,
nice. Thank
if
you.
you're not familiar with Western Legends or this expansion, it's live on Kickstarter now, about to be done. I'm sure it is funded and into stretch goal heaven. Um, but
Oh yeah, we had to. It's funny how people think that everything is scripted in Kickstarter, and sure you have a plan, but it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
right.
There was a plan for this Kickstarter, and just blew through pretty much all the stretch goals that were scheduled, like right from the like very very quickly. And then everything that was put aside as well, it's ideas for the next game. They're great. Had to be called back and is getting integrated now. And you would think that like the team would know exactly how it's going to happen. And the magic of Kickstarter is you don't. You're
Yeah.
directly in touch with the people, and there's a dialogue going on, and things happen, and you have to adapt. Sometimes you can, sometimes you cannot, but that's what happened. It's been a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, you guys
Um,
you're almost at you're halfway through the campaign and almost at 5,000 backers. I'm just looking at it now. So yes, this will drop in time. Do check it out. It'll be in second stage stretch goal craziness. And so and I haven't played this. I played Western Legends at BGG Con whatever 2 years ago.
mhm.
Or last no 2 years ago. And it's a really fun open world Western style game with
Yes,
cattle
it's
and poker and
it's yeah,
gang,
it's
guns
fun,
and yeah, it's got a good
and
vibe to it.
you know what? It's very American. Although the author is French, Hervé Lemaitre, the development made it a lot more American than the French game.
Oh, they're two
There's
different
actually
versions, or just mean the original
the
design?
the original design was a lot grittier and harder and tougher,
Mm.
um, and it was a fantastic game, but different. Like the engine stayed the same, but it's more lighthearted and more fun in the current version. And interestingly, some people love the system and all, but they're kind of longing for something grittier, harder, tougher.
Right.
Um, and and, um, and there is some project in the
Well,
works where
sure.
it's going to be a lot grittier and tougher, but it's a massive project. It's
Just make
almost a
it a
different game.
prequel. Um,
Uh, so anyway, there's something in the work, and Hervé he was a first-time designer. He's just like he's blossomed. I mean, when we were first talking, it was all doubts and all, and first-time designers, it can be hard, especially
sure.
he's worked on the game for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
um,
And so, but Western Lesson
it's
wasn't there's Kami-sama, and then I mean, it's a
yes.
litany. I mean, there's you guys have had. Let me go look again. Again, I don't. I never know what happens when you do this, but like in the last since Western Legends, which was like a
Hmm.
year ago,
Oh yeah,
Legends, Kami-sama, Imperius, the Omen Saga,
hmm
Eclipse,
Yes.
Mezzo, and then
Hmm.
Mezzo relaunch, and then this one. So I mean that that's a lot. That's a lot
It
of
is, and
Kickstarters in a
you're not
very
even
short
looking
period
at
of time.
the Kickstarter Micro has other great games that you haven't even listed. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't. So you guys are
Okay.
you did another label. You're saying?
Yeah, there's a channel where basically we've got an incredible developer called Chris Ham, and um, there's another channel where he can more fully express himself. And they're like smaller card games, like Tears of London, which has fantastic art and great design by
Super
the
creepy.
Pi Brothers from South Africa. Yes, it's
Yeah.
really, really good.
You know that I've worked with Christopher Ham, right?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
I do.
He did Legendary Creatures. He does the design on Legendary Creatures, which is not a small game. It is a big game. It is the
No,
opposite of a small game.
well, well,
Well, okay, it's a
it's
medium
not a
game, I guess.
huge.
It's not.
It's a
Sure,
yeah.
in your world, it's a small game. I apologize.
In my world, it's a medium game.
It's the longest, it's the heaviest weight game Pencil First Games has done.
Clearly.
Um,
So yeah,
Crazy.
there's
Okay,
this
go ahead.
number of games, and I think the reason is Colossal is all built around passion, and passion just doesn't stop. So there's always more projects than what the team can carry, and they keep working and developing and bringing in more stuff like every day. Like they never stop thinking about games, developing games, bringing new stuff. To Colossal. And we just went with the pace that was reflecting this passion. And I know, there were people like not getting it, and
It's like how
also
Tanguy
people
would put
thinking
it.
like, yeah, it's a scam. Like they're never going to deliver. And now games are being delivered. It's all
Well, yeah, and
produced.
once you
And
get over, once you get past that that initial hump, which you were able to do, I mean, well, if the games are delivering, I mean, I think there's no real conversation you need to worry about. Okay, so hold on. This is only beat two, so we
oh,
gotta go to beat three here for a second.
we got
So
more. Okay.
to some point over the years during this time, there's also this conglomerate band, whatever group of folks as who are sort of part of Surfing'Meeple, which does some fulfillment and distribution. And so, can you talk a little bit about Surfing'Meeple?
Sure. Well, in a nutshell, um, as you mentioned, up to last summer, I had a day job. And the board gaming industry, although a lot of people have high hopes to make a living doing board games or even board game reviews or, like all of those things, it's really
I
hard.
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about. And I had plenty of talented friends that enjoyed board games and could do stuff. Okay. But they couldn't make a living out of it necessarily, or they couldn't just do they couldn't jump. So at some point, this band of brothers and sisters, we felt like we wanted to do something. And so we chose a common name and helped one another to start businesses. So, there's been China where we lived for a while, and I think it's one of the best publishers in China. It's currently so far only publishing titles that are brought over from the US or Europe, but with a lot of love and attention to the quality of translation, quality of production, etc., etc. And that was one. In France, it was more the association of two people that were gifted in logistics in the general sense, administration, organization, and sales, and that led to a fulfillment and distribution company. And just use the same name to show that everybody knew each other, but all the companies are separate and they're
Right.
like separate owners. And when it comes to international, I had a incredibly talented person who knew its way through marketing and sales, and basically is an agent helping small to mid to Matagot companies to find partners in the world. So all of those things just happened organically. Like someone wanted to do something, and we just gave it the same name. Actually, we're working on another installment with an American person and friend who's going to propose on Kickstarter. That's a secret plan. I don't know if I should be talking about that. Like
Don't get yourself in trouble, man. I don't want anyone to get in trouble.
No, well, we'll see if it happens or not. It's still in the talks, but the idea is to propose board game plus elements, such as a giant version of the game, such as components to pimp your game for specific games.
Sure.
Basically singing the love of the game through a series of crazy little things that you couldn't do without Kickstarter, and don't, I'm never going to make a business, but are cool to have.
Yeah, and you can leverage the IPs, right? What is that custom Meeple site? Meeple. I'm sorry for the
Source
Meeple Source, whatever, something like that.
Meeple Source.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing their own custom stuff, but then they started to do the oh, you've got Pandemic. Here's the Pandemic set, and you've got and those are just little meeples, but you're or Charterstone. You're leveraging that brand, and then you can market against it and stuff like that. It's I mean, there's a lot of interesting and fun stuff to do, especially if the people making the components are super passionate about it.
Yes.
And want to make great stuff. And I think Kickstarter is a great avenue for that kind of over the top thing. In some ways, it's what gets board games in trouble on Kickstarter.
It is also what gets board games in trouble nowadays, in a way, because it's harder for the local game stores to keep up with what's going to move, what's not going to move, etc. But it's also offering a lot of people the opportunity to make their dreams come true. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the interesting things that I'm going to highlight from, I think it comes out in all the things that you're describing, but certainly from knowing you as well, a lot of this to you really is that relationship aspect, right? Working with a friend, partner, group of people, we knew each other, guy from high school, this sort of mixture of the business side, but also just sort of the person relationship side. One of the experiences we've had is often, and it's a little bit of a different background perhaps, but we've talked about different deals and different things at different times. I don't know if. Anyway, so we've talked a few times, and one of the places it's a lot of let's work together in this way, and my background's a little bit more well, let's get the contract and let's get the specifics, and we've had that little bit of I don't know if it's a culture clash or just a personality management of both having the relationship piece and then those sort of specific pieces, and it's been interesting. But when listening to the litany of the stories in a row in this interview, I think you can see how that's developed. The last thing I want to ask you, so you're this guy, right? You have this finance and accounting background. You've done development. You've worked in factories, so you've touched the lowest level pieces of game making. You're part of big, I don't know about big, but a traditional standard publisher. You're part of, sort of a future forward modern direct to consumer plus retailer, publisher. You're part of fulfillment and distribution and all these other channels, right? So there's probably not that many levels or pieces. You've worked with great designers. You've worked with incredible artists. You've basically touched every part of the board game sphere one way or the other, though you don't have a review channel, so I'm up on you there. But all in, right, when you when you look forward, right? It's still early in 2019, and you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
2019, and you're looking at 2020. You know what? There's lots of consternation about the volume of games. You can talk about passion, but like if every company was releasing 10 games a year, right? Like there's this big volume of product. It's certainly a growing space, and both in terms of culture and acceptance, and this is more perhaps an American phenomenon a little bit than necessarily, Europe, where some of these countries have been big into board games for in a broader sense for longer. But what like when you think about trends, like what do you see happening this year? What into 19 and 20? Like what are the things you're excited about? What are the things that concern you? How do you think of it?
Hmm. Well, it's a big question. Um, well, generally, I'm excited about the future. There's going to be a lot of change. I like change. Like I get bored easily.
Clearly,
So change is a good thing. I know it's not going to be a smooth ride for the board game companies. We are seeing massive changes in the industry, led by Kickstarter, led by newcomers, and essentially what I'm seeing is an environment where you will need to take more risks if you want to survive than what you used to do, where you cannot rest on your laurels and you've
sure.
got to constantly raise the bar. Take Matagot. We've been doing special components for a while, but at some point doing big minis, well, sort of like it's not fun anymore. I think somebody just put it to the point where
Maybe
it's
you're going to
like,
have to go back to doing big
no,
wooden meeples. Maybe the future's
yes,
backwards.
maybe that's the future. So you're going to need to like keep raising the bar. Look at Treasure Island and the compass. It's like, okay, are we doing this? Yes, we're doing this. We'll just have a big compass that you can use to draw circles and move around. So that's exciting. It's a bold future for the industry. Now, what could worry some people, it doesn't really worry me, is there's going to be a lot of dead people and zombies. People who are not adapting, they will just, for some reason, they say, well, something is wrong. I'm not saying as much as I used to. And quote unquote, it's somebody else's fault. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just the market is evolving. The offer is better and better. Doing a great game is not enough. You need to let people know. You need to interact directly with people, gamers. And that's something that you can be a little bit worried about, because one thing that I must say is a bit uncomfortable for me, and it's not really new, is the risk of a big concentration in the market and having a divide that is similar to what you've seen in video games, where
Sure.
there were a few golden ages of anyone can code a fantastic game. And gradually, you need more and more fun to do something fantastic, and
Yep.
and then
I
you
lived through that in
start
the video
to,
game industry.
it suddenly there's a moat, and you cannot just get in anymore,
Yeah.
and that starts to kill creativity, and you're publishing beep beep beep, like 5 as opposed to a new creative game, because your license is powerful and that's what you should be doing because it's more money. The creative me is a bit sad about it. Now the finance guy does see the beauty of it, but it doesn't get the same board games.
Yeah.
So one thing was worrying me, that's this, and that's also why we built sort of the Surfin'Meeple name and this
Sure.
alliance of people, is just we can't, every one of us alone can't afford like the best in class, but together we can get access to the best in class.
Right.
And there's
Right.
an inherent trust. Then when things go good, everybody is going to benefit from it, and you can't exactly tell why and how, but it's going to happen. takes like Surfin'Meeple France is doing Kickstarter fulfillment. Okay, the reason is when Kolossal needed fulfillment, it got kind of lost. Nobody really knew how to do it, and it was a bit scary, and it wasn't necessarily super easy for anyone to understand what was going on. But at some stage, we were like, well, we've got a warehouse, we've got warehouse keepers, we're shipping hundreds of games every day to shops. Maybe we can do the same to people. And they just organized it. And it literally was giving a hand. It wasn't like a business plan. It wasn't a business development idea.
Sure.
It was just like, they need help. Can we do it? Well, yes, we can. Okay, let's do it. And when it was done, it was like, hey, other people could be interested. I think this is going to be one of the beautiful things in the industry in the future, is having people that work together to still do things that will be on par with the big players.
Yeah,
the one that can afford.
You know, the manner in which you can have a completely distributed team and company and partnerships is mind-boggling, right? I mean, even again to talk about Pencil First Games for a second, right? It's still a situation where, like, you know, it's a hobby thing that I do, but it's with all these groups and peoples from different teams, like, that have developed relationships over time. You know, none of which are conglomerate, right? It's all just, you know, people working together and, you know, with deals and partnership and money. But they're all, none of them are sort of housed or consolidated in any way. It's just all these different companies and people. And sometimes, you know, you end up, you know, moving between. And one partner you use this year, something happens, they change. Because, you know, at this point, you know, I've been doing Kickstarter for a while, I guess, right? And over the last 5 years, there's been trends and things that have changed and backer expectations and how, you know, how you can ship everything out of your house at a certain scale and then you're at a different scale and it's not as reasonable. Yeah, no, it's crazy times, but super exciting. I agree with you. Well, we have been on for a long time. I appreciate your time. I don't, you're, you know, it's probably late evening for you. It's early morning for me. My kids are about to get up. But thanks for being on. If you're not aware, Western Legends Ante Up, right? That's the name of it, right?
Yes.
Is live on Kickstarter now, either ending today or tomorrow, sometime soon. So check that out. But otherwise, you know, keep up the great work, man. Bringing a lot of fun games to the table.
You too, and you know, you can't say it, but I'm really, really looking forward to Story. I think it's going to be fantastic. It looks superb, and I'm really excited to play your next game.
Awesome, man. So, I appreciate it. Lots of fun stuff in motion. But anyway, thanks for being on. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.